I mean, they've lodged it. I think it has a first call sometime this month, 17th, is it? But, yeah, that's just the first call, what's happening, obviously it'll sit down before a judge and he just, it'll be shuffling the papers sort of thing of where we're at. We've asked for disclosure on the basis of, the claims that they're making. From the information that's been provided, it sounds as though that's all they've got, all they've given us. And I've gone through that and it's like, is that it? I had another engineer just look through the information a while ago when it first came in and sort of looked at the claims that were being made and went, well, okay, there's 4 claims that are being made against me. And I just provided an initial, 1 paragraph response in terms of, if somebody just asked me, if counsel had rung me and said, hey Bruce, what about this? What's your say to it? I could have rattled off a sentence or 2 and just explained it. That other engineer's comment was, given that they're taking a prosecution, which is the big guns, you think that their powder might have been a little bit drier than it is. So either they're holding stuff back that, I don't know what's there, but who knows, whether they've got something else. But if that's it, when they served me papers, the first thing that went through my mind is, this is a publicity exercise for Gary Paul. And that's based, everything I've seen today, that still hasn't changed. It's a publicity exercise for Gary Paul. We've asked for disclosure, they've given us disclosure, based on what they provided to us, they're saying this is everything. He says a common tactic in the legal profession is, you then hold it back, and then, just before you have to, then you basically present it and so forth. Who knows? I mean, in the criminal world, I don't know. But if that's all they've got, and like I say, I can't think of anything else that they would have. Yeah. I've got simple answers to the questions that are there, and part of it is read the plans.
So you're pretty confident about the outcome?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like I say, it's a publicity exercise. It is a pain. It's going to basically cost me time, money, out in the industry, some clients will basically be concerned about it. That was the whole tactic of it. That's what it is all about. They've done it because they want to inconvenience me. They want to tie up my time. They want me to, have to basically spend some money in defending it. They want to basically, scully my reputation or, word out in the community and that, and scare clients off. That's what it's there for. That's why they're doing it. They've got deep pockets. It doesn't cost them anything. If they've got something, surely you would think in good faith, you would go, hey, this is what it is. And I could look at it and go, oh, gee, did I miss something? Is there something that, but there's nothing there.
Effectively, it's a witch hunt.
It's a witch hunt, yeah. It's a publicity exercise, as I put it. I'm a critic of council. They don't like that. They want to silence me. They want to shut me down because I am. And it's not just with Danny Kensian and Bella Vista Homes. I've got multiple clients that have issues with council, and I'm willing to step up and fight the fight for them. And I have over the years, not just now, but historically, I've had clients come to me and I've been able to help them technically in terms of battling with issues that they're having with council. And I do now with clients, have back over the last few years, and even moving forward, I've still got clients that are coming to me and saying, hey Bruce, I've got issues with what's council's trying to do to my land or doing to me, and will I help them out technically? Yeah, I will. Why do I stand up and take on these fights or these battles? I believe in freedom, my own freedom, and also the freedom of others. And so when, because of the industry I'm in, I can talk about the bureaucracy within, local authorities and the building consent processes and, in the RMA. I think people need, I guess, the freedom to be able to get on with their lives. And I don't have a problem with the bureaucracy and the legislation and the laws and so forth when it's gone through due process, it's prescribed, and we're to basically, meet the standard. That's a civil society. But when I look at people who don't understand the legislation, thinking that they can actually just ask for anything they like, because everyone else just gives it to them. And I've had people inside councils say exactly that same thing. Why won't you just give it to us? Everyone else does. And I just go, but we don't have to. So understand where your limitations are and don't cross the line. Happy to, invite you over and help you if there's a reason or some rational, technical requirement or anything like that. Don't have a problem, but don't just think you can just cross the line and impose it upon people, because I'll be here to, hold your feet to the fire, hold you back to that line, and, have that mutual respect, then invite you over if there's a reason for it. So I guess that's part of why I do it. That's my personal reason. And also, I look at those landowners, when they got evicted, and and I met a few of them and talked to them, and my heart just goes out to them. It really does, because they've got no idea. They just want to get on and build their houses and get on with their lives, and stuff's happening to them, that they've lost control over. So I have some experience and some understanding of the processes, and I can help them out. Some of it I think is a philosophical belief that local authorities should have more control in people's lives. I think that I've seen come through just in individuals with other stuff that I then hear about and read about of papers and other things that they're done, and history that I'm aware of. And it's like, they're in a local authority situation because I think they like the power. I've been in local authority for 35 years. I started off with the Tauranga City Council way back when, and have been involved in local authorities pretty much throughout my career because of the engineering industry that we're in. Worked for local authorities, worked for consultants and so forth. And I've seen that the staff have a large degree of control over the elected body, over the elected officials. They're the ones that control the narrative, control the process, control the information, have the relationship, the close relationship, because they're dealing with them on a regular basis. So when there's a squeaky wheel out there, you can control that narrative and how that is actually voiced to them. So as best intentioned as the elected officials are, they've got to understand that they're on the back foot in terms of the flow of information and advice that they're getting. And if I was ever advising a politician, I would just tell them to be very, very cautious about the advice that they're actually getting. Test it is all that it comes down to. Just don't take it on face value. Test it, because they've, the staff have, sometimes agendas, and they want a smooth life and they want it to go this way, and there's always two sides to a story and to an argument. Test it. That's really what it comes down to. I'm not right or I'm not wrong. Let's just figure out what is the process. Let's learn as we go through, but let's hear it from other sides as well. Tauranga has gone through a huge growth in the last 5 years. I've seen it. I've been back in Tauranga, how many years now? Coming up almost 20 odd years. And certainly in the last 5 years, 4 years or so, it's gone through a huge growth. And so that has had issues and problems and so forth. I still like Tauranga. I'll still live here. I'm not going anywhere. But I think some things do need to be sorted out, and part of it is the culture of that organisation. I think it needs to work more closely with the industry. If they've got problems or if they've identified issues and so forth, then get the industry on board. Explain to us, what is the problem? If I take the engineering fraternity, we're problem solvers. So explain to us, what is the problem? What are the issues that you're having to grapple with and deal with? Bring us on board so that we can then help implement solutions and we've got buy-in to it. There's a problem and all of a sudden it's imposed upon us. You can expect resistance, which is what happened. But first of all, we've got to basically understand the problem. I had a meeting with Simon Bridges a couple of weeks ago. There was a couple of us who basically went and met with Simon, explained sort of just the frustrations that we were having, particularly from my perspective. It was the frustrations I was having with MB, getting them to actually step in and take control. They have the ability to, self-initiated. There's concerns being expressed, formally that I was doing, and also informally. Just it doesn't take much to read the local papers or national papers to know that there's some problems out there, and some real significant problems to 21 landowners and huge cost, and yet MB seem to be sitting on their hands and, we're just monitoring it, we're just keeping an eye on it, and it's like, well, I think you need to step up. So we went and approached Simon Bridges. I believe he was obviously willing to meet with us, but he is in opposition, so there's not a great deal he can do. Compliance costs of building, just going through the roof. Compliance cost of basically, developing land, compliance costs of building, and it's not just local authority, imposing these costs, health and safety and, all sorts of that. All done for the best of reasons and the best of intentions, no doubt about it. But it all just adds to the cost. There's no, cost consideration is basically brought into it. And sometimes, I would say if you actually really sat down and thought about some of these things, you'd ask the question, is it really necessary? And I can give you, an example on the health and safety side where, you've now got to basically have, scaffolding and edge protection around all buildings. And, that must be a huge cost to every build. And I come onto a site and it's done for the best of intentions in terms of we don't want the scaffolders or the roofers falling off the roof. Fair enough, I agree with that. But do they also now understand that, other people who are coming on site are now, knocking their heads on all the scaffolding, twisting our ankles because we're having to basically step around and over and all this hazardous stuff that's now on a site that wasn't there previously. So they've asked for one thing because that solves that problem, created all this problem over here, but we don't like to think about that, as opposed to, I'm an engineer, I look at the whole life cycle and of that. So, that's an example. In the building industry, they ask for this additional requirements or something like that, additional testing or, something more. And I'm willing to say, well, hey, let's look at the design, let's look at this as to whether it's necessary. Let's see what's actually prescribed in the legislation as to what the requirements are, because we obviously have to meet that as the the baseline. I was in one meeting a while ago, and I won't mention the building companies, and it was in the meeting, we actually finally got to have a meeting with, a couple of staff from council and my client, who has one of the building companies, and we were, debating this issue of a requirement for, I think it was soak holes. And I was explaining to, this manager as to why I think that my design is sufficient, it meets the prescribed standard, basically, he was an engineer and he could see the logic behind it and why I've done it this way and it met the standard in the legislation, and he was in agreement with me. And I said to him, great. The problem I have is that when I resubmit this tomorrow to your staff member over here, and I was talking to him, and I said, when I resubmit this tomorrow to your staff member over here, he's not going to accept it. And I turned to this person, and he started arguing with me over it. So in front of his boss has already agreed, he's now wanting to argue and implement it his way, and it had to be done his way, and that was the only way it was going to be accepted. And my client could see that, and I just staged it that way with who I was looking at and who I was talking to. And my client over here could then see, and he just went, just put them in the ground, Bruce. Don't want to know about it, just do what he wants. Because he knew that if we went through that thing in 6 weeks' time, it still wouldn't be accepted, he still wouldn't have his consent, his client would still, or the owner still wouldn't have his building. Just get on with it, Bruce. And I've had other examples like that, you know, where I've gone, hey, you know, this is what's required, this is what, and they've, you know, basically just said, no, we won't accept it unless you do it our way. And I remember they sent out an example of another engineer's work on what they wanted. And so I rang this other engineer, I said, you know, you've obviously seen this sent out as, you know, this is the way they want it, and, you know, why do you do it that way? You know, you know about the legislation here, and this is the boxes, and he went, oh yeah, I know about that, and yep, we do that way, but council wants it, and it's good for us because it's actually just more information, so it's a little bit of extra security for us, and we just send the boy out, or, you know, somebody out, and we bill them another $175, and we just pass that cost on to our client. Literally, that's about $100,000 worth of work for me. Because after that phone call, I just went, okay, I'll go and do that extra testing. I told my clients I'll be billing them an extra $175 a job. Either the managers have that philosophy as well, or that culture, and so they foster it through their staff, so the staff are given the free rein to do it. And I believe that in this organisation, that's a major part of it, is that, you know, the staff, you know, get told what to do. We're doing it this way, and some of them have that sort of, you know, philosophy or requirements. They get supported by their managers, and you can't appeal to their managers, and then the executive also support that. So that's in that organisation. So there's nobody really to appeal to. To appeal to, you go to MB, and you know, like I say, I think I lodged my complaints back in April, and we're still waiting to try, and we've tried that avenue, and now we're going down this avenue just to see if we can actually get them to do their job. And often that's the way the industry adapts to get things done, because you just wanted your code compliance certificate. You just wanted to get in with your house. Okay, go and spend $500 on some plants and rip them out, because you just wanted to get on with your life and adapt. And then that person then goes, he gave me natives, why aren't you? Why are you being so difficult?
That's exactly how it happened.
People give me natives when I ask for them. I've got no prescribed mandate or authority behind it to require that, but damn it, I like natives, and I'll get my natives. Because people give them to me. Because you didn't want to go through the hassles of having to fight that and battle it to get that person's...
Well, the cost was real to me.
It was, yes.
It was a decision to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, my client who was sitting over here could see the problems I was having when I got the manager, when I could talk to them and reason with them, and somebody who could actually, you know, rationale and was treated me with respect to go, oh yeah, no, you got, you know, hey, let's resolve this. And that's the way it used to be. It stopped in about 2015 and 16 at the Tauranga City Council. Before then, you know, I could ring the appropriate people and sit down and talk to them. Some of those people are, I'm not sure how still involved they are, but when I've tried to do that through, you know, their engineering group and that, I get the impression that, yeah, they won't, no, we're not allowed, we don't do that anymore. Is it fashion? I think it is. I think that as a society, I think that, you know, that bureaucratic government control is coming into our lives more and more and more in all sorts of areas that never used to be there 30 years ago, 40 years ago. we had more freedoms, I think, back then than we do now.